2,000 years ago in the maze of Athens, a teacher walked slowly through the streets, and his questions moved faster than the feet around him. What is a life for, really? What makes it good, or worthy, or true? He spoke in short phrases that felt almost like riddles, and yet they kept echoing long after the crowd dispersed. If you listen closely, the oldest wisdom sounds like a simple nudge, not a demand. SFX, soft_breeze. 2. Consider the line that stands at the doorstep of every serious life. The unexamined life is not worth living. It sounds harsh, almost accusatory, but it's not a judgment on success or happiness. It's a warning about autopilot. If you wake up and repeat the same routines without testing the why behind them, you might arrive at a destination you didn't choose, built from the beliefs of others, not from your own questions. To examine is to slow down. It is to notice the weather of your own mind, to ask why you prefer certainty over doubt, comfort over challenge, noise over solitude. When Socrates says this, he is not scolding the ambitious nor praising the passive. He is inviting a practice, to take responsibility for your inward weather, to audit your motives, to rehearse the good questions before you demand ready answers. Another line often attributed to him is know thyself. It's short, almost tactile. It invites you to turn the micro lens onto your own mind. If you cannot name what you truly want, if you cannot see the bias behind your choices, you will be steered by fear, habit, or someone else's vision of you. Self-knowledge is not a final trophy. It's a continual conversation with your limits, your values, your longings. It is not arrogance, it is clarity. SFX, paper_Russell. 2. What does it mean to know yourself in practical terms? It means testing your beliefs in small ways and noticing when they crack under stress. It means learning to disagree with yourself without becoming your own enemy. It means accepting that the map you carried as a child may not fit the terrain you face today. Socrates would teach that knowledge is less a pile of facts than a method of inquiry that refuses to bow to certainty, that insists on the next question even when the answer seems to please. The next quotation moves from inner discipline to outer behavior. The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. At first glance, it sounds like a defeat, a confession of perpetual ignorance. But watch what it really is, a stubborn openness. If you accept that you do not possess the final word, you keep your options alive. You stay teachable in a world that loves certainty. And in that posture, you're more alive. Because you're capable of revising your map when the landscape shifts. SFX, soft_bell. 2. This is not nihilism wrapped in a curtain of humility. It is intellectual courage dressed as daily practice. When you admit you don't know, you stop pretending to see the world whole from a single pedestal. You begin to learn from strangers, from rivals, from stubborn facts that don't bend to your wish. The paradox becomes practical. Humility becomes a tool for action, not a burden. If you want steady progress, you do not pretend you've finished the syllabus. You pursue the next question as a friend, not a barb opponent. Now, let us braid these ideas into the texture of daily life. When you hear a claim about what is true or what is good, you pause. You test it against 3 questions. Is this claim helpful to real people? Does it survive the counterexample? Does it survive time? Socrates would not want a philosophy. He wants a life that uses philosophy as fuel for better choices. SFX, hum_crowd. 3. What about the famous line that wisdom begins in wonder? If you replace wonder with curiosity, the meaning becomes accessible to anyone who has bills to pay, schedules to keep, and children to guide through a noisy world. Wonder is not a luxury for poets. It is the mental posture that keeps your decisions original. When you are curious, you do not assume you understand the heart of another person merely because you are certain you understand your own. Wonder keeps the door open to surprising angles, to humility, to humor, to repair when you have broken something important in your life or someone else's. But let us test the comfort of these lines with a modern image. Imagine a leader who speaks in absolutes, who promises certainty in a world of rising complexity. Socrates will place a mirror in that room and ask, what do you actually know about the people you lead? And how will you verify your claims tomorrow? That is not a sermon about doubt for doubt's sake. It is an insistence that leadership grounded in repeated inquiry remains lighter on arrogance and heavier on responsibility. The map can, but the traveler's discipline, the readiness to adjust, to learn. To admit a mistake remains the same. SFX, heartbeat_soft. Here is the turning point. The moment when a quote stops being a nice aphorism and starts guiding behavior. The unexamined life is not worth living becomes a practical discipline. Every morning, a small right of question. What part of my routine has become autopilot? Which belief did I adopt last week that I haven't tested yet? The act of questioning becomes a daily habit that reduces regret and compounds clarity. The twist is this: wisdom is not a mountain you climb and plant your flag on. It is a river you ride. You never drink enough to feel finished, and that is exactly the point. If you treat wisdom as a destination, you will resist the weather of change. If you treat wisdom as a practice, you keep your hands on the oars, even when the seas turn and the horizon hides behind spray. SFX, soft_rain. 3. So how do we translate these ancient sentences into a life that feels whole in the 21st century? Start small. Choose one belief you defend with certainty and test it against the possibility that you might be wrong. Choose one person you assume you know and listen to a perspective that unsettles you. Schedule a pause, a moment of silence, where your mind can simply observe its own motion without rushing to verdict. In that space, the old line becomes a living instrument. The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing, and in knowing you know enough to start again. The simple elegance of the maxim, the unexamined life is not worth living, is not a condemnation of success. It is a reminder that success without reflection is a hollow drum. It is a reminder that a life with meaning grows from two seeds: questions that endure and the willingness to change when the world changes you. SFX, soft_chime. 2. As we close the circle, imagine a quiet room where a single candle flickers. The candle does not illuminate everything at once, but it reveals the next step you can take toward a life that feels true. It reveals the choice to say, I will question with care. It reveals the choice to listen longer, to insist on seeing the person in front of you rather than the stereotype you have carried. And it reveals the choice to act, not from fear of being wrong, but from the confidence that truth is a process you participate in, not a trophy you display. So if you take away anything from these lines, let it be. Life does not demand perfection. It asks for presence. To be present is to let your questions breathe, to let your habits be scrutinized, and to keep coming back to the simplest question again and again: what matters here now? In that breath, a life becomes legible not only to you, but to the people who share it with you. And perhaps in that shared breath, wisdom finally shows its face not as a shout, but as a steady, careful whisper guiding you toward a better day. SFX, soft_down. 2. OTRO, not as stop, but as can. These quotes are not a final answer. They're a practice you can carry in your pocket, like a compass that only works if you keep it turning. The journey through life's loud questions is not a headline to memorize, but a way to live with more honesty. If a single line could recalibrate your mornings, which would you keep close? And how would you test it this week? The questions are yours to carry, the wisdom yours to refine, the life yours to examine. Let this be your daily ritual. Choose one line, hold it in attention, and watch how your choices bend toward or away from it. Doubt becomes a tool, not a trap, when you study it patiently and test it with real consequences. Socratic practice is weatherproofing the mind against certainty's harsher winds, while remaining open to change. So map your week with small tests: a belief you defend, a person you listen to, a routine you pause. Which habit will you re-examine first this week? Your move is not perfect, and that is the point. Invite error, record the lesson, and begin again. A life